My name is Taylor Coyne, joining you from Los Angeles.
Hello, Taylor. My name is James Cook. I'm coming from Indiana, and let me be the first to wish you a happy Coronaversity. Yes, that's right. It's the 1 year anniversary of the lockdown. And how are you going to celebrate your Coronaversity this year, Taylor?
Man, I don't know, probably the same way I did last year, inside. Even though, to be fair, I was not inside at this time last year. I was on vacation trying to figure out when's the appropriate time to leave and go home. But, dark days.
Well, Taylor and I both research retail and real estate for JLL, and you are watching
Everything we know about retail.
That's right, where we tell you everything we know about retail, 3 things at a time.
So, James, this week, what do you know about retail?
Well, today we're going to be joined by Forrester analyst Sucharita Kodali. Hey, Sucharita.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me.
We're so happy to have you. Guys, if you don't know Sucharita, she's the principal analyst at Forrester. She covers retail and e-commerce. And today we're going to be talking about, among other things, the new store-in-store concept. So this is like Apple at Target and Sephora at Kohls. There's a multiple of these that have been announced relatively recently, and we're going to kind of dive into them. So Taylor, what else do you know about retail?
Well, I know that grocers are ramping up e-commerce platforms very quickly.
All right. Well, let's just get into it. Tell us more about e-commerce platforms in grocery.
So, the first thing that we know about retail is that grocery stores are expecting softening sales this year, because how would that not be possible? As you said, James, let us rewind to a year ago when many things hit the fan and we all freaked out and ran to the grocery store and bought toilet paper, which again, to this day, boggles my mind. But, we all went to the grocery store. That's also all we've been doing for the past year, is just going to the grocery store. So not surprisingly, sales very high. So grocery stores did great. And to prove that point, take a look at this chart, which looks at grocery spending and the spending that we normally, dining out, bars, restaurants. So a few years ago, I think it was 2015, we saw spending at restaurants outpace grocery stores for the first time. So people are really enjoying going out. That was the trend for years, not a gigantic gap or anything like that, but, certainly outpacing dining out. And what had happened? And James, again, as you reminded us, this anniversary of last year, this trend completely inverted. And not just like slightly, like that is a huge shift where grocery stores just, completely outspent dining out because we couldn't go out. So we're spending all of our money inside making meals. So again, this just really shows, how well grocery stores did last year. And obviously we've talked at length about how restaurants are struggling. And again, this is a great plug. Go out, support your local restaurants. They're still struggling until vaccine is widespread. Eat local, go pick up. But
Will do.
Yes, right. I just, again, call to actions. It's really important. But we expect this to revert at the end of the year because, we've also been talking about vaccines at length. When we all feel good, we're all going out, and arguably like hard. Right? Like I know vaccinated with my family and my friends are vaccinated. Like all I want to do is just dine out at restaurants and go to bars for an extended period of time. James is heavily nodding, which I know you agree.
Sucharita, you're going out. Do you have a list of restaurants to go out to?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think, Taylor, it's going to be faster than the end of the year. I think this summer between nice weather and vaccines, absolutely. I think that that recovery is going to start sooner than we think. And for all of those restaurants that are still alive by then, and hopefully even with the newest round of stimulus, it will give the strongest ones a little bit of an additional lifeline. We should hopefully be able to help them out and see the resurgence of that of the restaurant sector at least.
Yeah, that's a good point. We haven't talked about the stimulus, but that's huge. And again, because so much of what we're talking about is, anyone who's been able to hang on, you're doing great, you're still struggling, but, the struggle is not over. Everyone's still, well, some states not all still at minimum capacity and all of that. But, certainly here in LA, we are very much at not full capacity. So
Don't mess with Texas.
Yeah. Yeah. You said it. But so anyway, so this is all to say, right? Okay. So we know that everyone is dying to go and dine out. So grocery stores know this also. So they're just kind of warning investors, that their same store growth will decline. Kroger even announced that they expect their same store sales to fall like 3 to 5% this year. Sprouts, Grocery Outlet, and all of these grocery stores have had a great 2020. And it's not that it's a bad 2021. It's just how you compete with such strong gains. But, what they're doing, just also say like, yes, we're expecting store sales to go down. But we are still very aware that online shopping and delivery and pickup in store is very popular. And we are going full speed ahead in all of those things. According to a survey that was done by Global Data, when consumers asked which pandemic behaviors were likely to stick once normalcy returns, 68% said curbside pickup, which, yes, as someone who has now done curbside pickup many a times, it is so great. It has become more efficient and it has become faster. So we're seeing grocery stores respond to that. I'm just trying to, we have to worry about efficiency and we have to worry about speed and cost. So, James, the other week you talked about Kohls, new automated distribution micro fulfillment center. We're seeing that just across the board of all of these grocery stores, and it is impressive. So I think it was about 2 weeks ago, maybe not even, Kroger opened their first Ocado shed, which is, a highly automated fulfillment center, which they've been talking about for years, but it's finally here and they're going to roll it out really fast because their digital sales jumped by 118% just in the fourth quarter last year. Delivery sales growth was 249% in the quarter. So again, even when things go back to normal, this has become such a convenience that people want to do these things. So we're just going to see so many of these micro fulfillment centers, automated centers, because one of the biggest barriers is just how long it takes for a grocery store employee to go and pick all of these items. It's just so inefficient. So, James, I know you've asked me this before too, but Sucharita, I'm sure you've seen this, when you go to the grocery store, like I see at least half of the people there are pickers, like whether they're the store pickers or they're like from Instacart, they're everywhere. So,
quick, Sucharita, what do you think? It's rolling out robot warehouses and click and collect and all this stuff. It's really expensive. Yeah. What do you think? What's your long-term point of view on this?
Well, I think that you are going to see it in limited you'll see it in a few stores here and there. I think that it doesn't make sense for every single Walmart to have an MFC because that's going to be like trillions of dollars. But, maybe it has it in a few dozen, maybe even a few hundred. And it is very selective about which geographies it picks, especially based on, kind of the consumer likelihood in that region to shop via e-commerce and get curbside pickup. So I think that'll definitely be a big factor. But I also saw some interesting technologies. In Europe, they're investing in a lot of like electronic shelf labeling and a lot of ways to use like LED lights to signal where things are in a pick. So that's actually one of the biggest issues, right? Is that, you go and, somebody is looking for like 50 items and they can't find the specific SKU or it's out of stock or whatever the case may be. But if you can actually make the store more efficient in its current format, that may actually be an interim solution to, kind of making the that shopping process a little bit better than having to build out a full Ocado-like robotic fulfillment center. So we'll see. I think that there are some good substitutes that could be coming.
That reminds me of Lowe's, I think it was a few years ago, debuted that if you downloaded on their app, they would guide you on the floor with, AR to the product that you needed. That sounds, that's probably a little bit more high tech, which you don't really need. But again, I can't tell you how long I've spent in the aisles looking for coconut milk.
My
For sure.
Sam's Club had a Store of the Future pilot like a year or two ago that had that. And then even my Kroger app now tells me what aisle things are in the store, which is very useful.
That's great.
Right. And if they can tell you down to like the number of units, Home Depot does that too, is like which aisle, which bay, how many units. Now, the challenge is keeping it accurate, especially for sale items or some of those high velocity items. But if they could actually do that, and kind of that could be a better use of some of those cameras that like the Amazon Go store has, is making sure that inventory is accurate versus, tracking people with cashierless checkout. I think that they may actually be onto something.
Which all this, again, to your point that you're not going to see all of these micro fulfillment centers attached to every single store, but it is exciting. I think the demand has finally gotten to that point where grocers are like, okay, we'll be faster. We're going to do all of these things that we've been talking about for years, but we haven't actually implemented in the majority of our stores. So I do think, it's a good time for grocery innovation of just making things a lot easier for a lot of different people. So we'll see what 2021 brings.
For sure. Hopefully these grocers, kind of put aside that money and all those gains from 2020, because to your point, when the comps go down in 2021, hopefully it's not the excuse to tighten the belts again. And,
Right.
it's back to slow processes.
Yeah, one can hope, but we'll stay realistic. But James, what else do you know about retail this week?
Well, Taylor, here is the second thing that I know about retail. Today, I'm thinking about dollar stores and how they're using new tactics to expand their base. So dollar stores, and we're talking about Family Dollar, Dollar Tree, Dollar General. There's a few others. Those are the big ones. They've all seen rising sales during the pandemic because they're essential retail, so they didn't get closed, and their value. So low prices, great to have during a recession. And at a time when other retailers were not expanding or slowed down on expansion plans, for the most part, dollar stores did not. So Dollar General did 1,000 stores in 2020. They're planning to do more than 1,000 new stores in 2021.
That's a lot.
I know.
That is not like, they opened 50 stores. No, 1,000 stores.
We get excited about some brands are opening, 10 new locations this year. Let's do 1,000 and see what happens. Yeah, it's amazing. And I think there's this sense with dollar stores that there is an eventual end of the runway for growth. And so they're thinking about ways to expand into new target audiences. So for those who don't know, sort of the traditional Dollar General, for example, targets a rural or an urban lower income family. And that's really what they're trying to put a store in every place where those people are. But again, there's only so many places where those people are. So they're expanding with some new concepts, trying to get to further growth. So the first one that really caught my eye is this right here. So two concepts with one owner, Family Dollar, Dollar Tree. Now they're doing new combo stores, which is kind of the best of both stores under one roof. So the way that this is helping them expand is these stores, they're targeting very rural, low population areas. We're talking places with populations of just 3,000 or 4,000 people. So these are small towns that may be an hour or two away from, say, the closest Walmart. So this is perfect for them. And the Dollar Tree and the Family Dollar concept each have a different kind of appeal. So Dollar Tree is your treasure hunt, where you're getting your crafts and your party supplies and you don't necessarily know what you're going to get from day to day. And then Family Dollar is more like your general store, where you're getting your milk and probably a lot of people get their cigarettes there too. And, your soda and that kind of stuff. So by combining them, you can do two stores under one roof, and hopefully they're going to pull in more people. So there are about 50 of those open, with plans for another 3,000 of those in the future. So big expansion plans for those combo stores. So the next two concepts I want to tell you guys are both from Dollar General. So the first one is called Pop Shelf. And there's about 30 of these open right now. And these are all about treasure hunt. So these remind me a bit of Five Below, where you're going in and you don't know what kind of crafts or fun different home accessories they might have. So it's kind of a toss-up as to what they're going to have. Now, the thing with pop shops is they are targeted at middle-class suburbanites. So that's sort of an expansion into a new group. There are about 30 pop shops, maybe not even that many. The plans are to do 30 of these by the end of the year. So this is, for them, a small trial, right? For a company that does 1,000 in a year, 30, not so much. And I'm going to share one more new experiment with you guys, and this one's from Dollar General, and this is called DGX, and this is targeting millennials in urban locations. So the first one was in Sobro in Nashville, and I love that they have DVDs for sale.
I do question that even for the millennials.
Right. Well, I mean, it's an impulse buy, right? You're like, oh, they've got Die Hards 1, 2, and 3 for $5. Why don't I get them?
It was almost I could believe it more if they were VHSs for some reason, rather
right,
than
or
a
vinyl
DVD.
records.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because VHSs are making a comeback, which is crazy because those things don't work after like 10 years.
I was kidding. Are they actually making a comeback?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Everything.
For what purpose? What is the justification?
People who weren't alive when they were the thing and so think they're nostalgic and cool. I'm much happier now with streaming than I ever was.
It's like LPs that came back, I guess, a few years ago.
Right. Yes, of course. LPs came back. Everything's making a comeback. So Dollar General, the DGX, there are 22 open in 13 states. Obviously, it's a slower rollout because you've got to find urban locations that are the right fit. I saw a recent announcement for new locations in Pittsburgh, Grand Rapids, Michigan, Syracuse. So clearly, these brands are thinking about the future. They're thinking about other places they might expand beyond that lower income urban and rural family. But I think just time is going to tell how successful that is. Have either of you been to a DGX?
I have. I went to the one in Nashville, and it's interesting, James, that you mentioned all of the targeted places because they're all like university towns, and DGX in Nashville is like literally right on the outer edge of Vanderbilt University. So it's like one of when you're in college, they're all, you need like your local CVS or whatever for all of your random knickknacks that you need.
Yeah.
And this is essentially what they are taking on is that it competes on the non-pharma side with the, kind of either the C-store or, kind of the CVS Walgreens that you would normally find in a university setting. That was my read when I went to go see it.
Yeah, that's so interesting because that's what one of the things that Target's doing with the small flexible formats is a lot of those are going into university towns. Interesting.
I mean, because that's a demographic that constantly needs that kind of merchandise. You need kind of the lower ticket items, and it is, as long as it's convenient. I mean, it's a frequent purchase, and this is also a group that typically isn't going to go stock up at a warehouse club because they don't have enough space to store things. So kind of that need for that constant replenishment is important. I think that if I recall, also they did have a fairly robust alcohol assortment, the cigarettes, all the stuff that that university students would likely be purchasing.
Got it. Well, time will tell. There's still a lot of runway for the dollar stores to expand. Let's jump into the third thing that we know about retail. And Sucharita, we thought we would talk a little bit about some new in-store concepts that are out here and get your thoughts. Let's jump right into it. Let's take a look. The first one is Ulta Beauty at Target. So back in November, they said they're going to do 100 of these, and they're going to start rolling them out the second half of this year. So it looks pretty cool. This is a rendering.
Yeah. This is so it's fascinating. The press releases all said it would be about 1,000 square feet, and the average target I think is like well over 100,000. So it's a relatively small part of it. But the idea, it sounded like, is that they're going to bring in some just revolving merchandise that presumably Ulta is going to be selecting and picking for consumers at Target, which hopefully is a win for the Target customer, and it gets even the Ulta customer, kind of an opportunity to just have more touch points when that shopper goes to Target as well. My question is how it fits with the current Target beauty space, because Target, as you may remember, a few years ago, completely redid beauty in almost all of its stores. It was a pretty expensive build out because they're gorgeous beauty sections in Target stores now. So is this just going to be an appended add-on? Is it the idea to have completely non-overlapping merchandise? Like how does it fit?
So a lot of questions, and we haven't seen any information since the initial announcement in November. So it's kind of like we'll wait and see when they roll out in the second half of the year. Another one that we have seen is Disney at Target, and this was not nearly as ambitious. This was only at about 25 locations. I guess this was around the holidays of last year, and I like this. I love the idea, especially with the fact that we don't have Toys R Us. So a lot more people are doing the big holiday toy shopping at places like Target and Walmart. It's great to make more of an experience, I think. I'm pretty bullish on things like that.
And aren't they closing? Did I see an announcement that they were going to close Disney stores too?
Yeah.
Not I forget how many, but it's not an insignificant amount.
I was going to say, I thought it was 30. So it made, take that with a grain of salt. But if they're opening 25, maybe, again, this is going to be where we need the segment, the point of clarification next week when I'm like, yeah, it wasn't 30 stores. I was off base, but we'll correct that mistake if I did say it incorrectly. But, I wonder if that was part of their strategy on how they picked 25 Target stores. They're like, okay, let's see how we can counterbalance all these closures that we're going to have.
So
go ahead. Sorry, James.
No, go ahead, Sucharita.
I was going to say, what I like about a lot of these stores is that there's flex space too, right? So they can turn it on and turn it off as they need it, as if it's a seasonal need. That's to me one of the things that I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, they already have experience doing that with seasonal, so this seems like it's another extension of that.
Yeah,
I can totally see it. And the reason I'm saying this too is that picture that you pulled up. I really noticed the plush Olaf in the middle on one of the things. And I can just, and not that Disney can't do this at their own stores, but you get so many people going to Target that the next, Frozen 3 that comes out, that you can, Sucharita, your point of this flexibility of just making some kind of pop-up that it's based on this, movie that just came out and get people so excited.
Marvel. They need a Marvel whatever store in store.
Right.
Okay. Well, the next one looks a little familiar to me. This is Target little mini store. I'm sorry, Target. Apple mini store at a Target. Got my words mixed up, which reminds me quite a bit of the mini Apple stores at Best Buy. So very similar. And Apple stores are, major traffic drivers to malls and shopping centers. So I think Target thinks that they're going to be pulling in a lot of people with this. They're going to do 17 of these to start, but I imagine if they're successful, there might be more.
Yeah, and I wonder if there's going to be any. Well, it looks like it's Target employees, so they probably aren't going to have any kind of Genius bar or any kind of a service level that is layered on top of it. But to me, that seems like a natural extension for Target too. Is to have their version of Geek Squad, or to extend into a slightly different services model as well.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I think there's a real opportunity for bricks and mortar to distinguish itself because technology is so complicated and there's such an educational process around it. And Target does a pretty okay job, I think, with how the folks that they staff in their sort of electronics section. It's not Genius Bar level, but it's definitely something.
Yeah.
So up next, this is our last one, and this is Kohls with the Sephora store in stores. They're going to do 200 of these to open in the fall, with 850 by 2023. Look at that. That's a Sephora entrance in the Kohls. That's something.
Yeah, and this is essentially what it seems like Sephora decided to do after the JCPenney partnership broke up, right? And I don't know all of the backstory and the history behind that. Sephora, no doubt, was probably one of the best bright lights in a lot of what was happening at Penny's. But for them to now partner with a similar merchant that is not struggling as much as Penny's, I think is a great idea on their part. And as this is absolutely familiar to customers. This is the Sephora that we all know and love. I am curious to see how much of the assortment may differ, whether there are certain brands that likely are prohibited from selling within Kohls, whether, kind of there's an interchange of the returns and, whether it's truly a seamless experience, whether, and both companies have loyalty programs too. I do wonder, I don't know if either of you know, with Penny's, kind of how merchandise worked at Sephora, whether you'd be able to accrue your points through the purchases that were made in these store-in-stores versus Sephora branded stores.
I don't, but that is a great question. I think it's a great move. I like what Kohls seems to be doing, a lot of stuff trying that is strategic and is forward-looking. The Amazon returns stuff. I think Kohls, in a lot of ways, is more of the model of the department store of the future, unfortunately, than JCPenney is. Okay. Any final thoughts on store in stores? Is it the future? Is it the present? Is it the past? I don't know what I'm saying.
Well, it's definitely the present. And I think that we'll see more of this, if for no other reason, because brands are really the ones who are, brands. We saw the examples with Apple and Disney and Target, but then you also have these multi-category retailers showing up in other multi-category retailers. And if they're powerful enough to do that, I mean, maybe we see Barnes and Noble, assortments in a Target in the future, or, in a Costco or whatever. But it makes a lot of sense. I mean, be where the shopper is, wherever, that's a refrain that we have said over and over again in the e-commerce world. What I don't understand is why that same thinking doesn't apply to the bricks and mortar world as well.
And
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Sorry. It just, especially after this year too, I think, to your point, of every retailer's like, okay, let us really expand. Let us have so many touch points in so many different places that maybe we didn't normally. And we think about where all these people are going, because who knows what happens, who knows what the next essential retail is. Even essential has changed, during the pandemic, obviously grocers and stuff like that. But, what are we calling it? The new essentials. Home Depots, not that they weren't essential in the beginning, but again, as we stay at home more, we buy more things to fix up our places. But, I think retailers got scared. So I think we're going to see more of this. right, let me put some of my products here and some of my products here. A nice sprinkling.
And it's a great opportunity too to showcase a digital native brand that isn't necessarily going to roll out a full, New York flagship, but does pop-ups. So it's cool. I think we're going to see more of it. And now it's time to jump into our item for discussion. I'm excited, guys, about our item for discussion this week. This comes from my friend Sarah Quinn with Connect Media in Los Angeles. We have a podcast hotline on our podcast Where We Buy. She left this voicemail, but I thought I'd bring it on this show because we could have a little bit of fun with it. So what is the retail experience that seemed normal a year ago and now seems gross? Sarah's example was bowling and eating at the same time, which, yeah, totally get it. Like touching a bowling ball and then having fries, gross.
Not to mention you're wearing a stranger's shoes on top of that. So add that to the, yeah, but how well and what's in the spray?
Right. We don't know what that is. It's just some random aerosol. Okay, well, Sucharita, what is something that's gross now to you?
Salad bars.
Oh, gosh. Oh, man.
Definitely any communal eating experience. Meatballs at IKEA? No.
Yeah. Any buffet situation, I just feel weird about.
Which is, so I'm not upset about the salad bar or buffet. I'm fine with that trending.
You weren't a fan before, is what you're saying.
Wasn't a fan before, exactly.
I love a good salad bar.
What I am a big fan of, though, is a salsa bar. I love picking and choosing my own salsas and, other toppings that would go on a taco or burrito. So
fresh. Yes. That is, yeah. But I've seen some of the Mexican restaurants just do the prepackaged where they'll say, tell us which salsas you want and we'll give you as many as you want. But
it's embarrassing how much of the salsa I want. So then it just gets into this whole thing. And then I either don't get what I want or I'm embarrassed. So, just take some of that autonomy away from me that just, hurts.
Oh, man. Well, it's not gross, but something I do now that I didn't do is, or that I don't do now, is I don't wait in line anymore. I used to go get takeout and order it and then wait. And thanks to all the digital convenience that I've discovered because of the pandemic, waiting in lines for suckers, man. I'm going to order all that stuff ahead,
That's been the big win, I think, for restaurants and consumers is that basically the Starbucks experience has basically come everywhere to every QSR. And that's been, I think, great for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. That it's good to see that the stickiness of the convenience stuff is going to stick around. People are going to continue to do that. And then some of the stuff we don't like about the pandemic is hopefully just going to fade away into the distant memory, and we'll tell our grandkids about, I remember when we couldn't leave our houses for a year.
No, you got to be like, I remember when you could make your own salad at a restaurant.
Oh, good one. Right. They were called salad bars, and you could have as many croutons as you wanted. It was a beautiful thing.
No one could judge you for how much ranch you took.
Oh, my gosh.
Or salsa.
Yes, in my particular case, it is salsa.
Well, we're almost out of time, but I did want to check in and see if we had any comments from our viewers who are watching the show live. And we do have one. It is from Angie L. Cool avatar, Angie. She says, good morning, folks. Well, good morning, Angie. It's good to have you on the show.
Hi, Angie.
And
hi, Angie.
Keep watching, and for everybody listening or watching, if you watch the live show, feel free to type in comments, and we'll get to them in the discussion section of the show at the end. But we'll do that next time because we're wrapping up. So, Sucharita, question for you. You do a lot. Where can folks connect with you online?
Well, I am on Twitter, LinkedIn, and Clubhouse these days. I have a Retail 411 newsletter on LinkedIn. Subscribe to that. Follow me on any of those channels, and I look forward to hearing from everybody.
Sucharita does so much cool stuff.
Clubhouse. Let's just stop there, right? Like, all right, you're on Clubhouse. Way to go.
Oh, Taylor, come on now.
Taylor, you're not. Are you on Clubhouse?
I'm not. Someone asked me, and I was like,
get you on, and I need to have you on a show.
Yeah. I'll send you an invite. I did it a little bit, and then I got overwhelmed with it, and I've been pulling back.
That was what it was. Someone was like, do you want an invite? And it then explained to me what it was. And I was like, no, I don't.
So everyone be sure to connect with Sucharita. Also be sure to subscribe to our audio podcast. It's called Where We Buy. We do in-depth interviews about retail topics and trends every week. You can go to the web and find it at wherewebuy.show, or it's in any podcast app. Just search for Where We Buy.
Also, hit the subscribe button, which one of these days I will learn where it is so I can actually point to it. But all you YouTubers,
Up, down, we don't know.
I think it's down. But again, just search around for it. Click the bell icon so that you're notified when a new show comes out. Our next episode will be next Thursday, 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. We are a little bit later than usual. Oh, also 5 a.m. in Sydney. Make sure you set your alarm clocks that day.
Yeah, because we're doing it later, you can get up early and enjoy us with your breakfast if you live in Sydney, Australia. So, hot tip. Guest next week is our chief economist, Ryan Severino, and we're talking about his new forecast model for retail. It's some good stuff, and I'm really looking forward to it. But that's all for next week. Sucharita, one last time, I want to thank you so much for joining us today. This has been fantastic.
Oh, thank you, James and Taylor. It was great to be here.
Awesome. So, Taylor, what else do you know about retail?
James, I'll tell you all of it next week.